Hello there, my name is Nicole Devlin. I am female and I am free. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey because it's more important for you to know that there's a person here who understands what's going on over there with you, okay? So I'm going to tell you about that journey and I'm going to tell you about my story and I'm going to tell you effectively why I'm doing this work and why it's so important to me to help women like you to understand who you are, to be fully fierce, to be fully female, and to be fully free of the stuff that still binds you, bondages you, creates continuous victimhood, steeped in your own emotions. The victimhood isn't coming from outside, it's coming from inside of you. So let me tell you how I realized that that's true, how I came to understand myself and to become more free of the things that would bind me. So I would say right around the age of about 23 or so, I was very wild as a teenager, very crazy in the way that I ran around with men, ran around in life, ran around with alcohol. And it was too wild in the sense that it was dangerous to me. So at a certain point, I ended up getting on a more productive and more steadfast path of learning to live according to very open-minded, very conscious, very attractive spiritual principles. So that all started probably about 30 years ago for me. All right. So I set on this path. I'm like, all right, I've cleaned up my act. And by the way, all through grade school, high school, I was always acknowledged for being smart. Okay. So here I am, I'm cleaning up my act. I'm like kind of like putting my wild side to the side, which by the way, you don't have to do. We will get back to that in my class. But on that path, I started to learn about showing up, about being honest, about understanding what my feelings really meant. Okay. But there was some work done there, but not a lot, because my main focus and mission was, all right, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to work. I'm going to have that success. I'm going to get an apartment, and then I'm going to get a man, and then I'm going to get a house, and then I'm going to have some kids, and then maybe I'm going to get a dog or a cat or whatever. And then I'm going to kind of progress in this job, and I'm going to get a promotion, and then I'm going to get another promotion, and my kids are going to be wonderful because I'm going to raise them right, and I'm not going to do the stupid shit my parents did, blah, 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 blah. Well, fast forward a little bit, I find myself in my mid-30s, and I had some stuff. I had a six-figure job. I was actually happy in that job. Some of the other stuff was still working itself out, like the men, the money, etc. But I was happy and primarily content. But here's the thing. I wasn't myself. Here's the other thing. I wasn't truly fulfilled. Here's the third thing. My life didn't really have purpose. There were things that I involved myself with, whether those were social, whether they were personal, cultural. I did have fun in my life, but I didn't have control over my emotional regulation. I'd go out on 2 dates with a guy, he'd reject me. I'd feel like my world was falling apart and I'd stay home in bed and want to eat bonbons and not talk to anybody for 3 days, again, over someone that I dated like twice. Something happened with work and my whole world fell apart and I was going to be poor for the rest of my life. And my life was peppered by these unhealthy thoughts, steeped in limiting beliefs, steeped in a conditioning that was constantly reminding me that I had to be perfect. And if I wasn't perfect, I was not enough. It was complete polarity, which was self-destructive in nature and self-sabotaging in nature, which makes me a victim. Okay, so over here, it's like, I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be good. I'm never going to lie. I'm never going to think ugly sexual thoughts or good sexual thoughts outside of my relationship. Or over here was like, oh, I just want to be bad. I don't want to do the right thing. I can't stand that person. I felt hateful. All right. And what happened? What happened is what usually happens in these types of situations where you're forced to change. It's oftentimes a big bang thing, just like life itself, or it's kind of like a slow progression of these little things. And for me, it was very much a slow progression of these little things, constant rejection, constant feeling like I couldn't take the next step, constant feeling like I just wasn't on the right path, constant like hearkening back to thoughts in my head of being unfulfilled. And that was peppered with judgment and envy and a desire to see other people as my problem and all kinds of other things that would happen. all right? And all of those things were in my mind. And so I had this great epiphany. I had this realization that I was looking to the outside constantly to fix my life and manage my life so that I looked good on the outside. And that's okay, but if your insides don't match that outside, if you don't feel good about yourself, if you have imposter syndrome, if you're fueled by perfectionism you can never meet, well, then that causes dissonance. And dissonance is another breeding ground for more low self-esteem and lack of fulfillment. And that's where I was at. I was focused on the education and focused on the job and focused on the man and focused on the money. And there was never within me a solid foundation of how to understand, view, and see myself as a fulfilled being right where I am. Money or no money, man or no man, food or no food, great body, fat body. I was incapable of being steeped in a confidence and self-esteem that was going to work and create the kind of life that I really wanted from the inside out. Okay? So I had to struggle. I had to continually feel rejected. I had to encounter my low self-esteem in the dark by crying my eyes out. I had to learn a set of tools that would change the way that I think about myself and thereby change the way that I looked at my life. Okay? And what happened was I had to do some work. It was a little bit of a trudge. I did a lot of studying. I did a lot of training. And I have transformed into having a healthy way of thinking. So when women talk to me now about like, I don't know how to express a boundary. I don't know how to feel about myself. I still feel like an imposter. You know, I'm smart, but something's missing. You know, everything's good over here seemingly on one day, but then I look at someone else and compare myself and I find myself feeling not enough. I can hear women think those things and I don't think those things in a grave way anymore. Okay. There might be a little thought or an inkling of a thought, but I no longer identify with feeling that and fueling that with my emotions and allowing my emotions and that thought to spiral me down into darkness, anxiety, stress, and depression. That's the epiphany I found. That's the transformation that I've had. And I want to share that transformation with you. Okay? Because I have been able to put it into some kind of a program, some kind of a structure that I can now teach you so that you can experience the same effect. So if you are one of those women who has achieved, arrived, you know, you're fit, you have the money you want, the husband you want, but you're still feeling that lack of confidence, you still feel like perfectionism drives you, you still feel unfulfilled, well, then I urge you to get in touch with me. And more specifically, I urge you to attend my masterclass on Thursday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern. For that class, in that class, I will be talking about the components of self that continue to drive you towards low self-esteem, darkness, and lack of fulfillment. Those components are physical, mental, emotional, and even deeply connected and spiritual, if you want to use that word. Okay, they're that energy that's creative consciousness. You know, the thing that love is all about. It's a feeling, you know, and we can work together, talk together to put those feelings, both those of an emotional and spiritual nature, in their proper place. Understand what they mean, understand what they're telling you, understand how your thinking both feeds the negativity of those feelings and the goodness of those feelings, and vice versa, because the thought, emotion, feeling pattern goes back and forth consistently. And then having some kind of structure in your thinking, some kind of practice in your behavior that enables you to dismiss those voices as the enemy and propel yourself towards the result that you want, which is more confidence, more fulfillment, not feeding that voice that tells you the grass is greener, because right where you are is where the garden is growing. And right where you are, where that garden is growing, is beautiful color, like you see all around me. But this color around me isn't just outside, it's in me. So hopefully something's resonating with you. Hopefully I'm making sense. Once again, please enroll in my masterclass. I urge you, if in fact any of this resonates with you, makes sense to you, and you really do want to start to trudge that path of freedom to autonomy, interdependence, agency, love, confidence, and all the other things you really want to make your life great, no matter what's happening, then definitely come along and join me. I look forward to seeing you there.